All right, welcome to the MCPA podcast. It is a special treat here today to be with Dr. Colón. Dr. Colón is a very widely known chiropractor, and this is going to be great for the docs here in Missouri to get to know her. This is going to be a very special episode, and we thank Dr. Colón for making some time today and coming out. So it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you doing today, Doc?
Thank you so much for having me. So far, doing great. Sunny Florida, sun is shining. I'm happy.
Yeah, I wish I was in Florida. I'm in Missouri and it's about 55 degrees outside. So if I was able to come to Florida, we'd be doing this at your office or a studio there. But thank everyone for Zoom and their commitments there.
Amen.
Great, great. Well, we'll go ahead and just kick it off. Would you mind telling the docs a little bit about yourself and why it is that you became a chiropractor?
Sure. For most of you guys that may or may not know, I joke I'm actually a gringo boricua. I am a white Puerto Rican. I say that. That's terrible. Because both my parents are Puerto Rican. I was actually born in California, raised in Saudi Arabia of all places. But it was actually when I came back to the United States of America that my journey with chiropractic really started, because I found myself in Houston, Texas. And that's when I found out that I had stage 4 lymphoma and I had a 25% chance to live. But, not that I'm telling anybody you want cancer, but oddly enough, what a blessing that I was in Houston, Texas at MD Anderson to receive treatments and radiation and chemotherapy right around the corner upon coming back to the United States of America. So that was a big hit. But I'm here, right? And research saved my life. I always say that medicine saved my life. Chiropractic has continued to save my life. I think at that moment, I believed I was going to be a doctor, and I was like, oh, I'm going to heal people. And I had this big dream of becoming an oncologist, or I wasn't sure, but somewhere in that field. So I did what everybody does, right? You go to college, you do your pre-meds, you do your BS, and I did my MCATs, applied for med school, and I wasn't happy. There was something inside of me that just kept saying this wasn't the right path for me. And I had a lot of complications from the radiation, a lot of complications from radiation and chemo. So, a friend of mine trying to say, why don't you go, why don't you go see a chiropractor? And I did what everybody says. Oh, why would I go see a quack? What's that? I mean, it's not a real doctor. And he was like, listen, you got nothing to lose. Just go see a chiropractor. So it was later that summer that I decided to go visit a chiropractor in Atlantic City. And he was pretty much the first doctor in all of the treatments and therapies I ever received, even including my childhood, all those doctors too, that ever opened up the door to what we always talk about, trauma, toxins, and thoughts. And I'm like, well, what kind of doctor is this? How is you're telling me I'm going to heal myself with an adjustment and trauma, toxins, and thoughts and addressing them? And he was like, yeah, I am actually. And I hopped on the bandwagon per se. And one by one, I got off all my medications. I found myself no longer in depression. My gut was healing. I was no longer constipated. I was a happier version of myself. By the time I knew it, I wasn't taking a single medication, no more side effects. And I was just like, gosh, if I'm going to be a doctor, this is the doctor that I'm going to be. So I signed up for Palmer Chiropractic College, and here I am. I don't regret a minute.
Well, it's good to hear that you knew you wanted to help people and you had a lot of experience working with doctors just from your own health issues that you had going on. So that's important that you knew the different options out there. And some of the other docs we've interviewed, some of them, their parents were chiropractors. Some of them, they had an injury that led them to the chiropractor. Other ones were just one, doc said that he just knew he wanted to help people as a child and didn't even know that he was going to get into chiropractic. So everybody's origin story is a little bit different, but there's usually
Yeah.
one key chiropractor that, kind of takes you along. And whether it's you on the patient side or whether it's a mentor side, that's really what a lot of people, they interact with somebody that they have a great experience with and it changes their life. Do you have any mentors or anybody that guided you along the way once you made the commitment?
Yes and no. I didn't really have any chiropractic mentors in a sense. I was a little bit of a nerd. So I spent my summers and my time off for spring breaks and my weekends. I did everything I could to get in front of a chiropractor, to intern with them, to study them, to put my hands on and I just soak it all in. My mom, everyone's gonna say my mom, even though she wasn't happy with my decision to become a chiropractor at the time, she's still my biggest fan. So she always pushed me in the right direction. And when she's like, if you're going to commit, always commit and see it through. And obviously now she's not only on board, but she's very proud of me. But then things changed, right? And now I'm in the spotlight a little bit. And I would actually have to say my current mentor is actually Dr. Sherry McAllister. She has really taken me under her wing. For those of you who don't know her, she's the president for the Chiropractic Foundation for Progress. And she's just been in my corner, like literally a stranger to me. I didn't know who she was, right? And she sees me at the FCA and she just takes me under her wing. And she's just been such a beacon of light in my universe. When I need something, I can call upon her. When I feel stuck, I can call upon her and stuff for that. I'm really indebted to her and I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Dr. Sherry McAllister is a mentor to many people, myself included. The Adjusted Reality Show definitely gave us some of the inspiration to do this because we just, as we were speaking earlier, there's not a lot of people doing the media side of things. And if they are, it's maybe possibly more based on pay per click and SEO and, getting you ranked higher on Google. So when it comes to user generated content and other forms of stuff, it's very important to make your own repository because you don't want to be paying somebody to kind of do some stuff for you and you don't have that brand alignment together because that's the first step of some of these ones. If someone's willing to skip the brand alignment step and move right to production, then you'll get a lot of content, but it may not be stuff that links with your audience.
Not so easy. It's not so easy. And it's the truth. It's almost a necessary evil, right?
Yeah, and that's what and when we saw you, what you're doing there with TLC and your show, and we have some questions on that later on. We saw you, and that was just very important that I thought we reach out and just try to show docs that there's a continuum. You may not need to apply for your own show, but at the minimum, you can start to videograph and you can start to document some of the aspects of your practice that are able to be shared with the public. And then, as time goes on, this is going to give you some benefits that won't be realized until down the future when somebody comes in and says, "How'd you find me? I saw your Facebook video that one of your assistants shared into a local group I'm in," or it was a word of mouth referral. So when you get to these things, we're working for the future and we're getting some things there. And that's sort of the whole purpose of the state association. And the reason for the show is that we're trying to give docs the resources they need.
I love that. No, at the end of the day, no matter how you look at it, we live in a different world. We have to be able to adapt, and social media is a form of creating that relevancy to who we are. You got to be able to adapt to new ages and do your own thing while you're at it too. I think that's what's important about social media more than anything, especially when you're going to put content out there. There's so many facets of social media, and I'm not sure we want to go with that, but I'm going to go with it. Because it's not an easy thing to accomplish. So there are basics you need to know, and then there's a whole other spectrum. I could talk about social media for an hour itself, maybe more.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems and the one that I always try to address is sometimes I just don't feel like turning on the ring light, putting the phone on record and making videos. So I'll give myself an out to not put up a video because I want to put on a tie. I want to make sure my lighting's great. I want an LED sign behind me. And then I realized that sometimes some of the most successful content is just you with a green screen behind you available in the Instagram or TikTok app. And you just talk about a picture behind you, just pointing to it. And once you start to see that there's some, formats that do really well on some of the scrolling platforms, you can start to repurpose this stuff. And you can just, I'm doing this once a week anyway. Let's get some B-roll
Yeah.
for a video that we're going to put
Yeah.
out.
100%. 100%. I love that you said that. I think it's funny because most people would assume because I'm in the spotlight and TLC and all this, fame and whatever celebrity chiropractic status. I think you would assume that I like social media, that I'm about it. But the funny part is I hate, but it's become, pertinent. And I always tell my everyone who asks me, know your strengths and know your weaknesses, right? So when it comes to social media, I'm not a person, just so you know, social media for me was like taking away my presence with my family and my staff, and my clients. And I felt that it was this dark hole that just had no end to it, right? So I had to figure out a way to delegate it. I knew it wasn't my strength. It became a strength for me. And it became a strength in so many ways. One, I delegated it. Two, you got to know all your platforms, right? And then each platform, and do your research. Don't dumb yourself down to the idea of what social media is. Do your research, know that every platform has different algorithms. Trends are exactly that. They're trends, they come and go. So if this isn't something that you can do, allocate this to somebody in your staff that, listen, mine's a 21-year-old. She gets it. I don't do this. I'm not that cool. I'm 37 years old. Do you think I'm cool with social media? No. So that's her job, and delegate it. And even then, I don't want it to get into the middle of what I do. So what do? I schedule it like anything else, right? Now I know that on Tuesdays from 12 to 1:30, I'm going to come ready to work. It's my day to do whatever it might be, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Let's get some videos. Let's shoot this. Let's do that. And just save them up, right? Get that library going for you so that you're not having to be in it all the time. Because for me, that would soak me up. Now, I'm not saying don't do some of those momentous types things. I'm with my patients sometimes. I like to, can I take a video of you, doc? I'm like, of course, sure. I'm not going to say no. And of course, there's some on the go stuff, and I've gotten better at it. I do live things now, podcasts. These are all part of that social media platforms that we can talk about. But do your research in every one of them. And if you're not great with it, delegate it, because it is a necessity in your business, especially if you want to have potential growth.
Yeah, that's so important. I made the first move. I went ahead and made a social media manager hire before I actually had a social media account with more than 100 followers. And for me, it just came down to, my gentleman Rad, his passion for social media is much greater than mine. And then he's also had technical skills that, it just came to the point where it was like, if I can focus more on making high quality content and I can have my post production done by somebody who's more qualified at it than I am, then I take away the out for saying, well, this video is not going to have the same production as a TV show, so I don't want to do it. And then I realized that some of the best content are the ones that I just made happen because I felt that, you know what, if I just get something, it'll be better than nothing. And then this ends up being one generally received well.
And I would also add to that, right? I think that some people might get finicky with social media. Because you have to be this personality, right? Wrong. You don't. There's a niche for everything. I truly believe as long as you're putting out who your authentic self is, there's a place for that, right? So if you're a gung ho DAC kind of guy, you love looking at X-rays, and fine, do a trend and make it relevant and creative to X-ray, right? Be who you are, because I think at the end of the day, people can understand if you're really authentic or you're fake, right? And also, if I'm going to lie my head down at night, I want to make sure that what I'm put out there is me, not something else, right? Or a version of who I am. If you're a repeat person, then fine. Post all the Pete stuff. Do you? I think that's another big part. I think people feel like they have to play a role in social media. You don't just play you, do you, and somehow get creative with the trends to make it relevant. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and I've been on your profile as well, and I see that sometimes you'll do like the POV videos that come with like it's got like a skit, and some of them don't have massive dialogue behind them. They're more based upon the video that you're doing and then maybe a recorded sound. So it's big to take trending sounds and then do your own spin on that. And with your example with the DAC bar, then you might have an X-ray meme about what happens when somebody comes in and says, they're having a shoulder issue, or and then you show the picture and it's
100%. Yes, I tell people just do you. I think they feel like they need to be a big persona of just social media. You don't have to. You don't have to be anything. Just be you and make it relevant. I think that's really important to be authentic on social media.
exactly. And so specifically for chiropractors, how have you noticed social media benefiting them? Have you noticed anything in terms of practice growth, big C chiropractic, the profession? How would you say social media is impacting chiropractic?
First off, you're gonna laugh about this. The first time TLC ever came to me, they said, you know what? We found out about you because ASMR was trending. I said, what the hell is ASMR? It's like, yeah, it's trendy right now. The fact that we're having these auditory sounds and cracking trending on TikTok and trending on social media just goes to show the power that we have with chiropractic on a platform, right? And here I am, not even knowledgeable of it. And they're asking me that, yeah, you did a great job. You got 17 million views. We love that ASMR. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So it goes back to that relevancy of chiropractic care. The word is out there. We need to create the dialogue and continue the dialogue, no matter what it looks like. Because I think, and this is, I hope I'm not getting off a track in saying this. Sometimes as chiropractors, we get in our own way, right? For example, the name of my show is Crack Addicts. You think I liked the idea that it was called Crack Addicts? Guess what? No. The first thing I thought about was probably you guys, doing something like that. But it still created a movement for chiropractic. Whether it was good or bad, people still wanted to listen and tune in, right? So that's what it's all about. I want you guys to understand that, to not be so stuck in your ways and the holes. Oh, well, it's not a subluxation, it's not an adjustment. So, I'm not supportive of that. guys, you gotta evolve, you gotta adapt. This is a new era, and you gotta take things a little bit lighter because that's where we're going. That's where this generation is going. So if you want chiropractic out there, you gotta lighten up a little bit. Lighten up. It's okay. Everyone's gonna live.
That's been one of my favorite parts of just seeing how diverse practices are. Folks that live in a town where there's an employer who insures majority of the people, and they have a, insurance-based practice, maybe some cash, and you have the people that are all cash. You have folks like the DABCs who are, trying to figure out what's going on
Yes.
inside of people. And what I like about it is that you can choose your niche and you can decide to build the practice around it. And then now that you maybe have maybe you're more of a functional practice, you have some other people in there working under you and some other stuff. The last doctor we interviewed, Dr. Hill, actually has a gym workout center inside of his practice that patients can use, but mainly it's a staff benefit. And it was just great to see his performance and just general enthusiasm for fitness inspired him to do, the on-site training area. And when we were talking, I said, that's a perfect opportunity to get some content around that because when people are coming to you, you're putting it in motion. You're giving them the adjustment, and then they're able to finally get back to what they wanted to do. But right now, the only people that don't know about that is the doc, the patient, and maybe that's about it. So if somebody's interested in sharing their story, there's an opportunity.
But you hit the nail on the head, right? It's about Instagram, all these social media platforms, no matter what it looks like, it's about creating a story, right? So you can get the word of chiropractic out there, no matter how it looks. So sometimes that story might look like a case study, and what that looks like. Sometimes the story is that a patient came in, has never seen a chiropractor before, and is healed, right? Sometimes the story is a traumatic brain injury. Sometimes that story is your staff. Sometimes your story is a time that you fumbled on your butt. So it's all about telling a story, and again, I don't think people understand. And I think that's the beautiful part about social media and chiropractic. It's the first time people are truly seeing how encompassing chiropractic is. And I think that's pretty cool. And then I came across it again with TLC. The producers had no idea. They're like, oh, wait a second. You don't just treat neck and backs? You do hands and feet, and you treat diet and nutrition and exercise and pediatrics. And what else can you do? And again, these are the stories, and I think that's what the power of social media has done is it's created the ability for chiropractic to really be seen on a grander scale. And I'm not just talking about subluxations, right, and adjusting. I'm talking about the three T's: trauma, thoughts, and toxins, right? And those stories, right? I think people are really fascinated by that.
Yeah, it's important that patients know, and this also patients have some form of connection to legislators, and the legislators start to deal with some of the bigger things going on in your state. And we were talking before the show that in the 1940s, I believe in Louisiana, they were still jailing chiropractors. And most of the folks that had mentors that started practicing at that time, they all remember folks that were jailed, or at points where you're just completely being discriminated against that has individual cutbacks that we have sort of been able to address now, but the discrimination
Yes.
is still there. It is still here. And until people get used to understanding that there is more than one type of doctor and there's more than one type of health ailment out there. I mean, it's you go to a hospital and you tell them that your stomach hurts, they've got like three places they can send you. And nobody ever says, oh, I just want to see the one doctor that's going to be able to help. You've got to go through the washer.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because when it comes to chiropractic, indoctrination has been going on for a very long time. We're all very well aware of that. But I actually think like now's when we're really like going to start really creating the buzz of chiropractic. And I say that because, and I've said this a million times during the pandemic. One of the things we realized was that the real pandemic was in the treatment of patients and the way that healthcare evolved, right? And I think that whether or not you're this or that, right or left, up or down, I don't really care, right? We can all agree that there was a mistrust that happened and people saw that dialogue happening. And I think people are waking up. And I know it. I know they're waking up. They want the organic foods, the antibiotic food hormones, they want the exercise, they want to drink more water. They want, all they want to drive this. They're more pertinent to going into a chiropractor. And I know this and I believe in it because guess what? Here in South Florida is one of the best places you can actually you can practice as a chiropractor. We have a lot of more leeway, I'll put it that way. And you're seeing urgent care centers You're seeing multidisciplinary practices coming in, and they're hiring stuff. We have orthos that are hiring chiropractors to work in their office. So you're telling me that I am a real doctor? You're telling me that I deserve to stand right next to an MD? You're telling me that for pain management, before they go get an epidural, that you might refer to me? Wow. Oh, but by the way, that's not good enough. So you're going to hire me? You're going to put me in house with you?
It just
Hell yeah. Let's go. We're just there. So I think we're like just creating a buzz. I really do.
Yeah, it's definitely important. I wonder how many people could have had a better outcome had they either been exposed like you were, where somebody made a personal recommendation, or even better, they were referred by their initial physician to go see a chiropractor. And it's just, I get it. It may not be able to address everything, every type of ailment there is, but for most things that you're having that the scope covers, I mean, you might as well go see them. Like you mentioned, you don't really have anything to lose. And it's one of those things where until you're just going to continue to either dismiss it or even worse, just sit there in pain. And that's the one that I think I see the most is folks just learning to deal with chronic pain. And once you hear the word chronic, that's when ears start to close in most physician circumstances because they're paid for acute issues.
It's mismanagement and lack of co-management. And I went, I'm multidisciplinary now. I have an NP in my office, I have everything because now I'm seeing these extreme cases. And by the way, chiropractic might not be for everybody. If I have someone with TIA or this might be happening, yeah, I can adjust and do these things. So I'm not going to miraculously make them walk or unparalyze them. But let's create a dialogue between me and the physical therapist and exercise. And maybe someone has low back pain and they're morbidly obese, and we need to get some semaglutides down to at least bare minimum get some of the weight off so we can regulate the low back pain and get them onto chiropractic care. What's wrong with that? Why can't we co-manage, right? Because isn't the idea at the end of the day to do what's right for our patients and do what's best for them in all regard? I say so.
Especially because these patients are the ones that keep all types of physicians, all type of healthcare practitioners in business. At the end of the day, if these patients weren't coming, you wouldn't have anybody coming through the door. And as a result, your choice to become a doctor, no matter which specialty you choose, would be in vain because you'd have nobody to help. So I think that's the hard part. You have to spend all this time and money to get trained, and then you have to take the risk of starting a business. And then on top of that, you're dealing with, when you're just serving in a circumstance like consumer packaged products, you make the sale, that's it, you receive your money. For you, you can provide your service and it may not be, outright clear what the next step is. Sometimes time is the only thing that's going to be able to give you some information. And that's why we got things like soap notes and we got other types of documentation. But it's just so
Yes.
hard when folks are so tied up in this. I speak to docs that sometimes all they can do is adjust 8 to 5. And then from 6 to 9, they're sitting in their office writing reports. Maybe they go home and they do another 45 minutes of reports. And, they're trying to get it in 24 hours for best practice. And, when you're not helping people, you're doing paperwork, and the paperwork, does give some benefits, but at some times you just have to wonder, would we be doing this much paperwork this far down the line had we seen the patient earlier?
I'd have to agree with you. I mean, it happened today. I had a client walk in, opioid addiction, and his goal is to be able to get off opioids and decrease his pain. And no one's been able to refer him to a chiropractor. And he saw my show, and now he's in my office. I don't know if I can make you not an addict, but I can tell you we can decrease your pain. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking to co-manage with your doctor. Give me your doctor's name. Let's start a referral, and let's see if we can get your pain scale down. That's a good goal. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a tough one to deal with. So the best
All day.
is there.
All day.
And he's not alone, your patient, because there's a lot of folks out there dealing with addiction. I was talking to one of the last chiropractic students we had on, Alexis Goodman, and we were talking about the Netflix show Painkiller and just kind of the rollout of the opioid crisis. They owned a patent for some morphine-based medicine that, had some bad side effects, and they just really juiced those pills. And then they ended up getting out there. And there's a lot of people responsible for that. But at the end of the day, we have citizens from the taxpayer base, even if you don't even care about people, you just think about people in terms of lifetime contribution to the tax-based system, how many people were just taken away from us because of this, because unfortunately they got hurt at work, or, it didn't even have to be an injury at work. It could have just been an ex,
So tough.
bills. And yeah, this is such a tough one to deal with. And when you see chiropractic here in Missouri, the Mo Health Net, our state Medicaid, they have a pain pilot program for doctors. So if you have an ailment that could be treated with opioids, you could ask them to refer you to a chiropractor. And I just thought that was super important, and maybe even could have been done sooner, because if the alternative is opioids or chiropractic, I'm taking chiropractic every single
All
time.
day long. You're right. 100%.
They can make the best decision they can with the training they have. But sometimes when somebody just rattles off a bunch of stuff to you, I'm just like, wow, I don't know what that means. So that's the part about getting it out there, and seeing people. You mentioned that the gentleman had saw you on television, was able to come see you. This is great. And I kind of will roll us into it. So can you give me an idea of what made you decide to pursue a show featuring your practice?
I didn't. Again, I was on TikTok. I had a video about period cramps hit 17 million views in like 24 hours. And by the way, my most ridiculous video wasn't the one I thought would hit, right? And that was never my objective, by the way. I never thought I'd wake up and have a televised series. Nonetheless, I get an email, and the email basically states that we're looking for a chiropractor. We're looking to do the first chiropractic series in the world. We'd love you to be a part of it. And I genuinely deleted the email because I thought it was a joke. No one, come on, it's not real. So a couple weeks later, I got another email. Hey, we haven't heard from you. And I noticed it says Warner Brothers. And I'm like, well, maybe this isn't a joke. Maybe I should look into it. So yeah, that's actually how it all came about. I signed up for it, and we did a lot of pilots. We weren't sure what we're going to shoot. I was really, really, really nervous. I was very fearful, very scared, because I know something like this had never been done before. And what a surmounting amount of pressure to have to represent the chiropractic world, knowing that there's so many different facets of it. And how was I going to be all these facets of what chiropractic is? Because I don't know, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm this, who knows? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And how do I correlate the nervous system and subluxation, get the message across, and my SOT, Atlantis orthogonal? I mean, there's a million different ways to practice, and all I just wanted to do was focus on subluxation and nervous system, right? How am I going to get the message across? It was really nerve-wracking. It really, really was. And the show hit, and I got to tell you, the chiropractic profession has backed me up. And I have everyone to thank for that. I'm so impressed that it was received so well. I'm so proud of that. My life has blown up extensionally. So I never intended on a TV show, but now I'm in that direction, and I'm a beacon of light. And you better believe that if that's what God intended me to do, that moving forward, I'm going to make sure that I keep pushing the word of chiropractic out. And it's been phenomenal. I have doctors all over the nation, the world reaching out. Australia, Canada, London, South Africa, Colombia, Brazil. I have patients coming in from all over the world, by the way. Wild. Then let's say to Florida. And the doctors will call me and say, hey, because of your show, I'll get an Instagram message. A patient walked in my door today. I mean, I get literal chills, because I'm thinking, wow, even if it's not me in my practice, like, what a testament to chiropractic that we got something out there, that it has hit the whole nation. We have patients walking indoors. What an achievement. I'm so proud of that. And now I have a state-of-the-art facility expansion, and I'm treating them from all over the place. Never in a million did I think.
That is so interesting that patients are walking into other doctors' office, your office specifically, from it. And this comes from the difference of, that you have options for earned media, you have options for paid media, and you just have to take a look at which one is going to give you the best return. And, one of the problems I ran into with making content was realizing that I wanted to make content so that my end user would see this and then convert with me. And then I realized the main people who were watching my content were other people in my industry, and not so much my client. So that was the hardest part, was realizing that when I make these big educational videos in a suit and I sit here and I try to talk about them, I'm actually making this for other people like me. I ended up not making it for, the end users. And that sort of made me think just back to that brand alignment and just think, why am I doing these videos? And who do I want to follow the call to action? Because somebody else might see it, but if they're not in a place to receive it or don't need it, they're going to keep scrolling.
Yeah. I think that's been truly incredible. I mean, today, God, I have people who will come, and this is the wild part, because it almost goes against like my philosophy of chiropractic. I have people who drive 2 hours, 4 hours a day back and forth, 2 hours back and forth, 3 times a week, just to come get adjusted. And I'm thinking, well, that's not good for your low back. Can I find a chiropractor near you? And they're like, no, I need help, guys. I have patients everywhere.
Thing. So you
It's
really are
crazy.
in the profession, and you're giving people some of their first look at the profession, and just seeing that, their buddy who might have parroted just a general quip about chiropractic might have just gotten that from Facebook, and he might not have had an individual thing. I'm always going to respect somebody's experience if they had a bad experience with the doctor, and if that's what they say. And people interpret life through their own experiences, and they sort of have a constructivist view on things. It's constantly changing. So
Yeah.
that same definition, the same thing that soured somebody, we could bring them back as long as it's done in a way that they can receive.
Yes, absolutely. And it's changed. It's also changed my game too, right? Because my philosophy used to be, subluxation, nervous system, corrected care plans, and because I know that if you come this many times a week for this long, that we can actually make corrections to your spine, and I still believe in that. However, this has created a dialogue that no longer, I don't want to say it doesn't exist for me, but I've had to change the way I practice, because how am I going to guarantee somebody who's coming from Chicago that I'm going to change their structure of their spine in a week? I can't do that, right? So I've really had to adapt as a diagnostician, adapt as a physician, and also real deal my patients. Hey, I'm not Harry Potter. Just because you saw me on TV doesn't mean you're gonna wham bam, thank you, ma'am, you're all healed, right? So it has changed the way I practice, and in a sense, changed a little bit of my philosophy. So I've had to just kind of keep in mind that it's really about the client, the patient, realistic goals, ADLs. And that's been actually really tough for me, getting out of that dialogue of corrective care plans and structure and practicing like that.
Yeah, I imagine you have to switch it up because you're doing a different type of practice than some folks, and he's going to come through the door, and you don't get the privilege in some cases for them to be local or right up the
Yeah.
street. So I'm sure you have to kind of change that into the plan, and people can do as much towards their health goals as they can at that time. But when you tell somebody, hey, you need to make a 180 life change today, go ahead and cut out all of these things, go ahead and exercise 5 times a week. You give somebody these diagrams, and that made sense in the controlled double-blind study they did together when they wrote the recommendation. But sometimes we just need to get folks focused on not continuing to further the harm on the body, whether that's just favoring a certain type of knee. And then I had one doc that told me if you could just lose 20 pounds, you could extend the shelf life of your knees many years. So he was telling me 20 pounds is a good number to look at for somebody's knees and joints, and that and most people, they want to lose 100 pounds, but he's just saying, what kind of changes can we do today to get you closer to a point where you're starting to help the body?
Yeah, it's changed everything. It's changed my whole life, quite frankly. Mine and my clients and my staff.
And it keeps people going. Do your patients have to do anything special as a result of being on the show? What would you say is from day one, somebody walks in, you're intending to put them on the show, or they asked to be on the show, something like that? How can one go from just patient privately being seen under HIPAA and all the other guidelines you have to being featured on your show?
Actually, the funny part is I have nothing to do with that. The production agency chooses all my clients for me because they think it's really, really important for me to have authenticity. So, for example, during the filming of TLC, I didn't know any of those patients that came through the door. They would show up in a van. They would keep me in my office, and the cameras would go on when we would meet and greet, because they wanted it to be a dialogue that was really true to what it was, with no preconceived notions of the patient, what they were going through. So everything you saw was in the moment as is, which is really wild because I had some crazy cases, by the way. I'm like, I haven't seen this since I don't know, maybe my radiology exam at my practicum. It's, hold on, can I, let me phone a friend. Hold on, let me look this up really quick. It was wild. It was wild. But now in my practice, people come with I think they come with a notion of who I am, and they're excited. It's kind of cute. I'll go into my waiting room, and I don't feel that way. I'm still the girl next door, and Palm Beach Gardens doc, and my staff, and silly me. So it's humbling, but there is a different dialogue that happens now because I have to be able to stand my ground and create reasonable action and reasonable ways to speak to my patients from all over the world. So that's been a tough one to navigate.
That's so interesting that they're choosing it. And I guess that sort of leaves it to just seeing how qualified are you as a doctor. If somebody walks through the door and this comes in. So that's interesting. So I feel like that just puts, an added bit of, I don't know if stress is the word or just because
Yes.
yeah, it definitely is
Their
stressful.
medical files are like this. I'm like, I need 30 minutes to just review some of this to make sure there's no contraindications to carry. Maybe they're not even, by the way, and I still got to take my own x-rays. And I don't give a crap. And I'm sorry to say that because the way I look at an x-ray isn't for epidurals, ablations, tramadol. The way I'm looking at x-rays, your structure, your foundation, looks at the causation, right? And having to explain that to them, especially when they've gone through 20 doctors before they've gotten to me, right? And what that process looks like. And then again, because I'm this TV star, right? That I'm going to deliver this much, right? So I have really had to change my practice, my script, the dialogue from the moment you walk in, you're on the phone, your first appointment, your ROF. Like it is strategic. It's business now.
Yeah, and it's great that you can still help people with it. So it's the kind of union between media, business, your practice, and kind of getting everybody taken care of. And I've seen some of the folks that you've treated and, in the research coming up for the show. And I just, you're making a big impact in people's lives. The same thing that our docs here in Missouri do every single day. And, you get to the folks that sometimes you don't know who's coming through that door. And now that you have to, pretty much show them what's coming up and what you can do. I mean, this is great for the profession because, this person is going to move. They are going to go back home. They're going to talk to a family member who's having low back pain. And when they do, you want chiropractic to be on the list of recommendations that they say, hey, listen, I'm not a doctor, but you should probably, go take a look at a chiropractor because that's what I used when I, had my knee injury or something like that. And, that's word of mouth is big no matter what type of practice, business, or just even movement that you're a part of.
It sure is. You mean you ever think I'd ever be treating PIAs and brain stimulators and cervical fractures? And I mean, wow, let's go. It's a whole nother world in my office now, and I'm grateful for it. I really am. But it also just goes another testament to chiropractic what we can really do. So for that, I'm eternally grateful for the show and what happened and the dialogue that continues for our profession.
That's amazing. And does the production company, do they have them sign some type of waiver that either, because I'm guessing they need the waiver to use their likeness on the TV, but does the waiver also cover some of their health rights as well? Is that sort of how that's done with them?
Yes, 100%. So the liability is not just assuming on me. I think the patients are well aware of what they're getting into when they sign up for production, right? And by the way, there's no guarantee that they're going to make the cut. So that's the other part. I mean, I think I saw maybe 23 patients in 14 days of filming. And of those, I think maybe 8 or 9 were really illustrated on TLC. Again, you got to create the story, right? And it was all real. There was nothing, faked or scripted, which was really fun.
That's pretty cool. If you ever see me in one of those car accident neck braces in your waiting room, I'm trying to get on TV. So I may shave the beard so you don't recognize me. And I'll probably have to just show up. So it looks like I'm going to have to come to Florida to get on television.
People ask all the time, "Oh, can I get in your show?" I'm like, "No, you can get on my social
Yeah.
media."
And that's
We
sort
can
of
do that.
the realistic part. And that's where folks are going to come in and see you after it's done. I'm a fan of Dr. Z. I've loved Dr. Pimple Popper. I sometimes can't look at it when it's on the television, but I thought, applying that model here is very interesting because people want to see what doctors do, especially when it's not you in the hospital kind of laid up and you're like, give it to me straight, doc. What's going on?
Yeah.
Like this
But
is
it's also scary because it's created liability. So I think it's glamorous, right? I mean, maybe to an extent it's glamorous. By the way, it's a lot of work. I think actually doctorhood's easier than filming, which you wouldn't believe. I mean, it is tough, man. But it is really, really changed everything. You better have some standard operation procedures. You better be cutthroat. It really is about getting in the boxing ring, showing up every day, and really you gotta whoo, I'm telling you, there was times that I've been sweating. I've had to change everything about how I practice from front end to back end.
Yeah, and it's probably for the best now because where you were thinking you were going to end up when you got out of school and you probably went right into work, I never thought you'd be on this trajectory. So it ends up more money, more problems is a good kind of summation of it. But in this one, exposure, more exposure.
Yeah, it was a big wake up call. There, I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm humbled in it, because it has created such a stir in my life. I cry sometimes, guys. Yeah, I do. Because sometimes I don't want to partake in this role, and it takes a lot of my time away from my family, my practice, my staff, and I have to travel, and I'm only one human being, right? But at the end of the day, I always come back to what is my purpose? What am I serving, and why am I doing this for? And if it's always of good intention, then I'm doing the right thing and to keep continuing, right? And that's ultimately my goal, is to lead by example. Make sure that we announce to the world who we are as chiropractors, that we are real doctors, that we're incredible diagnosticians and physicians, and that we truly do believe that the body can heal from the inside out. And I'd like to see that message go everywhere.
Yeah, I love that you're doing this, and I personally thank you, and I know all of our doctors do as well. And that's, as a state association here, we're doing the same thing on a local level. And I guess, in your circumstances, you also have to be a doctor on top of the advocacy work that you're doing. So that's sort of the benefit of having your state association and being a member of it, so that, let's say your practice just, unfortunately, you're not able to swing some of these different types of marketing, media, and other types of public engagements. The MCPA is going to be there, doing it for you. And that's sort of why I believe that folks do need to be a member of their state association, because it is the
Absolutely.
cost to be a member, but there's an even larger cost to not be a member, to be out on your own.
I agree with you. I really do. I'm FC all day. I'm a part of a lot of members right now.
Yeah, I can
Whatever
imagine.
I can do.
That's amazing. And could you just, I guess, talk about why state association membership is important? Because I think for you, you're setting trends here. I'd love to hear why you think it's important.
Well, because there's facets, right? Like I said before, there's strengths and weaknesses, and the acknowledgement that we're getting. There's a part of it that's local. There's a part that's national. But when you're part of a state association, these are the people that are going to litigations. These are the people who are fighting for chiropractic rights. These are the people who are spreading the word on something that, quite frankly, I'm not knowledgeable about, that I couldn't do, right? So it is a unity. It is a village that it takes to do this, right? And so you need to back that up, because it's everybody's got each other's backs in this moment, right? And my state association has my back. They know that I'm a spokeswoman for chiropractic. So yeah, I'm going to support them so that we can continue empowering everybody about what chiropractic is all day long. Your state association has your back. They're built to do the work that you yourself can't do. It's a really simple recipe, right? And fight for the things that you and I can't fight for when we're in the middle of practicing patients.
We're tracking 19 bills in Missouri that have some type of way to affect chiropractic physicians, all the way from physician titling, being able to use the word doctor that you're duly allowed to use in Missouri, along with physician, all the way down to things about advertising. And you'd find this one interesting. They have, you already have to put your name, your actual doctorate, what board you're certified by. You can't just throw up, Dr. Mike, board certified. That could mean a lot of different things. So you have to have, all these different things. And they've got 19 bills going up this year that affect chiropractors in Missouri. And, we try to tell people you need to be on this. If not, there's only so much you can do once it's already passed.
But not even that. It's your state association that's taking that a step further, whether it's insurance provisions, whether it's provisions how you practice, right? Listen, I say it over and over again. I go to Michigan. I can't do intravenous in Michigan, but I can do it here in the state of Florida, right? Rules and regulations on how you can advertise and words that you can use. Your state association is the one who is directly going to make your chiropractic realm better, right? So why wouldn't you partake in that? Right. So again, I love practicing in the state of Florida because we have so much leeway, but that's my state association taking care of that in Tallahassee. and yes, I took intravenous, and yes, I do intravenous in my office. I have an IV lounge, guys. These are things that are allowing us to widen our scope as doctors of chiropractic. And I wish people understood that.
Yeah, and I've heard some great things about the FCA's annual conference that they do. I know a lot of people that I speak to, our vendors and our sponsors, that also get out to Florida, and they love going down there. So it seems like, just from an association standpoint, they've got some good things going on down there, and that folks are willing to come out to Missouri and market with us and sort of meet a docs here. And, it just comes down to, like you mentioned, if you don't have your individual state up to par, It doesn't matter if they're doing something great in California if you're not from there or one of the other ones. And there's always groups looking to decrease your scope by increasing theirs. Or in some circumstances, they just want to take something off the table and tie up your resources, having you fight something that probably won't go anywhere, but you need to put a real swing towards it. And it's a smokescreen. It's just they want to keep you running out of time and energy so that hopefully one day you just say, fine, I won't be, fighting for that anymore. And then they
I'll lie down now. 100%. Man, whew, don't even get me started on insurance provisions. Oh, what a headache. I'm cash now as a result.
Okay, good, good. And that was definitely something that I had on there is I wanted to know just an idea of how much you would share on the kind of business composition. So you're doing cash, that's pretty good. So that's also going to come into some conversations with patients about how they're going to be able to get the care. It's not something they're just going to be able to wave the insurance card and hopefully a mail bill doesn't come in 6 months.
But there's two versions of that, guys. I've done it all. I've had multiple practices. I've done everything from insurance to massive care plans to cash and this. I mean, I now I'm doing concierge and cash only. So I really have done it all, and I've created a business plan. I think number one, have a vision, right? And you need to understand that there's a dialogue that's happening one on the insurance's perspective and how they're going to cut you, right? But also the dialogue that's been created in the patient's mindset of what they're getting for that insurance. And you need to be the one to step forward and change that mindset for them. Because quite frankly, not for nothing, here in the state of Florida, their copays are just as much as a cash rate adjustment, right? But they have it in their head that I have to go see a doctor who's in network and da 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 da, because that is the dialogue and that we have created for them. If you want it, you're going to have to be the one to undo those pieces of the pie, right? Be honest with them, let them know, educate them. That's one of the biggest things. We have failure to educate our patients. Sit down with them, take the time. And if it's not you, delegate, 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 delegate. Get out there and educate your patients that their insurance, I'm sorry, is probably not doing them any justice. Right? It's keeping them sick. It's keeping them in a circle based on their provisions and what they require in order to get 6 visits of physical therapy and then ASH network. And oh my God. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but change your patient's dialogue. It's here for them. It's a mental game for them, you know? And so I think that's one of the biggest things I found going from insurance to cash practice. And by the way, that dialogue happens from the moment my staff picks up the front at the desk and calls them to get in the door. Oh yeah, we understand we're not a cash practice. I have a script for it. They know what to expect. There's no hidden fees, no hidden agendas. And guess what? They still come in.
Yeah, I'm sure some people are worried that you stop and there'd be nobody coming in. You also mentioned the concierge. We actually got that secured here in Missouri. That was something the state association worked on, and our attorney put together a document for doctors who are looking to get into that. How have you been able to use the concierge practice ability? Is this are you traveling to people? Are you having them come to you on their time? How does that work? How does one say, "Fine, I'm going to start a
Um,
concierge"?
I have an associate now. I have a massive practice. There's 4,000 square feet, the nurse practitioners. So you basically you do your ROF, you do your exam, findings, all that kind of stuff. And at that given point, and by the way, you were told when you first picked up the phone call, made your schedule, you book your appointment, you pay for your first two appointments. And at that point, we go over what care plan's right for you, because maybe you just need a couple visits because you're here from Chicago. Maybe you have a corrective care plan because you're local, or maybe you're concierge because you decided that you're going to be here for the week and you want to see Dr. Colón only, right? That's concierge. So with me, the way it works is you can see any of my doctors for a certain price point, a certain package, or you can see just me for a concierge and what that price point and what that package looks like, right? But concierge also allows you to have direct access to me at any time. It also allows a certain minute and time frame with me. It's a private room with me. You're also allowed to have any modalities, whether that be shockwave therapy, spinal decompression, at the doctor's discretion, upon each visit. So there's other perks, I should say, to the concierge.
Yeah, I love that. MCPA members, go to your members only tab for that agreement put together by our attorney. That'll show you what you need to have written with the patient so they understand what you're doing there. But it is something that we've been able to secure here in Missouri, and I want to see more people using it because it's just a different type of way to serve your patients. And it sounds like it's customizable and up to the point that they need it. That's amazing. Giving people an ability to choose their care outcome and how it's going to get there just seems great versus somebody that maybe is like, they'll pay for a 2 region adjustment and that's it. And, you'll have to do the roller table for free because, they're not going to pay for it.
Hey, you have a spondyum. I want you so many times the shockwave, the FND, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you have an extrusion. Why don't you come in? Let's work on you with myofascial release for 10 minutes. After that, we'll adjust you, get you on spondyl decompression. That's concierge. And I'm going to pay this price point for it. Right? It is. It's creating almost exactly that, a customizable care plan for your patient, especially when you can't do these corrective care plans because I have someone coming from Australia. I mean, whew, whew, the heat's on, guys. The heat is on. I better bring it.
Yeah, hopefully they can continue their care when they get home, and this is just something to help jumpstart it, and then maybe they can get the records from you, and their doctor's able to see that, and then like you mentioned, sometimes the doctors just reach out to you. I'm sure about something that they've seen, especially if you're dealing with it on television, then they know you have seen this and you have an idea of what. Even if you don't know what to do, you are one of the better people to tell them where to start looking and who they should contact.
Right. What type of adjustment to receive? Hey, you need this, you need that, 100%. So that's part of that concierge service, and I've so far I've really enjoyed it. It's been fun.
I'm going to talk to more docs about that and see if they're interested in kind of increasing the amount of patients they're seeing in that mode. And, it just might be something that they have to roll out and everyone's got to make their own business decision on it. But it just sounds like it's another way to reach people that doesn't require an office visit scheduled at, you've done yours today. Let's get your follow-up scheduled. They cancel. It sounds like putting the onus on the patient to kind of choose when they're going to get the treatment and sort of where.
And I want to bring this up, and I want to say in the most non-pretentious way, it's also about the cash. And I say this because, and I mean this in the nicest way, I'm making money now that I feel like we should always be making, right? Because I go see my primary care physician. That's what I mean by what I'm trying to say. I go see my primary care physician. Maybe my insurance covers it. Maybe I have a deductible. Maybe I paid $200 for that visit. And did I even see the doctor? I don't know. I waited in the waiting room for an hour. I got put in the room. I waited for another 30 minutes. Maybe their PA came in. Maybe their tech came in. And then finally, after I waited another 45 minutes, I see the doctor for 3 minutes and blah, blah, blah. Okay, bye. So if I get to see my client 3 times a week for 4 weeks, maybe the rest of their life for a wellness patient, and I get to put my hands on them for 7 minutes, 20, 30, apply spondyl compression, then aren't I worth that? Aren't I worth that? Yeah. Yes, we're worth that. So I'm not saying it's about the money, but that is the dialogue that we need to create because we are worth that. At least I think so.
Yeah, you definitely are. You've been to school. You've also had time in practice that you've spent. You have associated mentoring the next generation. And it just kind of comes down to if medical doctors and other types of physicians were treated this way, I don't think, they would be doing the same things.
Why should I be making $17 on Medicaid? Why should I be making 35 on Medicare or 45 because they've capped me out? And now I can't even do ultrasound because they decided that no matter what, I'm going to make $45. I believe I'm worth more, right?
It's always striking. And I'm not a physician. So the hardest part for me is trying to figure out how, an actuary is going to provide the best care for a patient. And then when you ask somebody flat out, so the insurance doesn't cover it, think of it, from the extreme of just having to pay, $40 here today, all the way to a movie like John Q, where Denzel Washington couldn't get his son a heart, and it's just too much when you take a look at what they go through.
But then you're right. Take that a step further. Now I'm getting paid what I'm worth. But guess what's happening? My patient's having delivery of better care. Wow. There you have it.
Is it about the patient or is it about checking a box to make sure that you're compliant on a certain type of work? And you're always going to be compliant because you're a doctor, but sometimes just checking a box and pushing somebody along, that worked when we were making cars on an assembly line. That's not going to work.
It's a win-win for both parties, essentially, right? That's how I'm looking at it, right? It's not some pretentious outlook. It's saying, hey, like, we both get this out of it, and I'm happy to do so because that's how it should be, right? I hope that we can break more barriers to that. So we're worth it. We're worth it.
Yes, the patients. Your show has definitely helped doing that. Folks who maybe have never seen a chiropractor are going to see you, whether they're just a 90-Day Fiance fan or whether they're just got sick and is at home during daytime TV and decides to flip to TLC. And I'm sure TLC is also spending money to put it out into the social media and the metaverse. So there's going to be folks that are just scrolling a phone at their job and see you. So there's going to be some time to get out there and have things rolling. But if you weren't doing something like this, I guarantee you folks would have been comfortable with another 20 years of not having a chiropractor doing media the way you're doing, because it's just like you said, it hadn't been done before. And unless people are thinking about it, it's I'm just so amazed that they saw your video and that's what made them reach out. And that just goes back to the fact that if you were going to record a video today but you thought nobody was going to see it, there are producers who have people sitting at a table all day scouring certain
Our
venues.
universe. Michael, you're gonna kill me. My thing is gonna die, and I don't have a freaking thing.
No, no, that's okay. I think the main thing here is we really just wanted to get, this conversation in with you and have people have something to, take home. And I appreciate you sharing the kind of intersection between the show and your practice because, I'm not encouraging everybody to start a TV show, but what I am encouraging to do is to put parts of their practice within law and within the advertising provisions here in Missouri out into the world so that they can see that.
Yes, 100%.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. The kind of last question that I ask people is, have you watched any books, TV? You're on TV, so this is a weird one. Anything you've been watching recently? Are you a TV person?
I used to be. This actually, it is a weird question. I used to be. Guys, and you probably don't know this, but I actually had a baby right before I filmed. So I'm a brand new mom. I filmed TLC 6 weeks postpartum. So when you asked me about a book or a TV, I haven't even watched reruns of my own show because I'm too busy trying to juggle my life right now. Is that embarrassing or what? So
Congratulations.
yeah, no, I don't even watch my own self anymore. I haven't had time, and the time I do have, I want to spend with my baby.
And those are the things that matter in life. And I just thought this was a great question because sometimes we're just talking to people that maybe catch a show or a movie at night while they're doing some paperwork and
I used to be cool.
never know if you see yourself on there and then you get there and it's just a question over what people want to see for big C chiropractic and also their chiropractic future for themselves in their individual states. If people wanted to stay in contact with you or learn more about you, what's the best way for people to just learn more about you, get in contact?
Go to misschiropractic.com, and actually it's a really important question. Like I said, I have 20,000 patients waiting all over the world, and I do have patients in almost every state, so I'm always looking for another chiropractor. So if for any reason you feel fit, please reach out to me on Miss Chiropractic. There's a segment where you go, you fill out all your information that you want to be part of my directory. I need patients to be healed. I'm not the only one. If it's Philadelphia, if it's Dallas, if it's, I don't care what it is. Guys, let me know. I'd be happy to send clients your way. We got to get people better.
Thank you so much for that. We got to get you out to Missouri sometime. I don't know if you do the CE circuit or if you do anything like that, but we'll get you some information on what we're doing out here. And if we ever have any doctors in Florida, we'll send them your way.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Colón. I really appreciate you coming on. And also thank you to Julie for scheduling this. I really appreciate her kind of jumping on.
Bomb.com.
Thank you so much. Thank you to TLC as well. And yeah, we hopefully will want to have you back on sometime here. We may need to try to do something more of like a panel, maybe get Dr. McAllister here and just talk about more on what people can do here in the future. So we'll send people to
I
check
love
out
that.
the show Crack Addicts on TLC. And in the meantime, if they need you, they can find you at Miss Chiropractic.
Thank you.